Welcome to Parenting Decoded, a podcast for practical approaches to parenting. I'm Mary Eschen. One topic that never fails to come up when working with parents is the issue of screens, how to manage them, how to keep our kids safe, and how to keep a positive relationship in our homes during all of that. It's the last issue that I want to talk about today. Screens tend to divide our families. But what if we could find a way to bring our families together? To create a positive atmosphere in our homes that would help train us and our kids to manage our relationships with screens. Wouldn't that be worth considering? For those of you who have kids from preschool through elementary and peeking into middle school, this podcast is for you. You might have a few battles in your homes around screens right now, but the bad habits tend not to be as ingrained by the time our kids hit high school. I want you to meet Heath Wilson, co-founder of Aro, a device and app to help build positive family relationships by training us to put down our phones, to connect, relax, and recharge together. It's not a dream. It can be a reality. Welcome, Heath. So glad to have you on the show today. I'd love for you to explain a bit about your device and your app and say welcome and all that kind of stuff. You say that your device and app makes it easy to put down and have fun with your family. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us all about it?
Well, hey, Mary, so thank you so much for having me. Let me tell you a story before I jump into what Aro is. So a lot of what Aro is built upon is kind of a journey that I went through of failure, of recognition, of research, and then ultimately hope. That failure started with my own personal failures. I was an entrepreneur. I was on my phone too much to the dismay of my wife and family and probably those around me, friends as well. So I felt this tension percolating that I just needed to be better. Then I noticed it with my friends as well. I was in a couple different groups of mentors, and everyone had the same problem. You know, this device was getting in the way of what they said was most important. So from there, I said, well, let me do some research. You know, what is out there? Obviously, there's tips and tricks and ways to limit screen time, but I didn't find an actual solution that was just targeted towards families. So not just the kids. There's plenty of solutions to limit and filter and restrictions, but nothing that really got the family aligned. And that led to a point of hope. Like, I actually think there is something that we could put in place that, frankly, has solved it for my family. And I think if I can solve it for mine, we can solve it for a lot of others. So that's really where it started, was this long journey and kind of a mosaic that came together to say, let's actually go try to build something that can change families.
Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit about your family dynamic, like how many kids and when you started this journey, how old were your kids?
Yeah, so I've got 4 kids now. 2 are 16 years old, boy-girl twins. I've got a 14-year-old freshman and then a 6th grader as well. So we're right in that middle school to high school age. Now, when this journey started was 3-4 years ago, so they were all kind of middle school to top end of elementary school. And I think I just saw the future. You know, I wasn't a good role model, and I knew that they had learned probably bad habits from watching me. And I thought, look, kids are a lot of what the habits they develop are primarily based on what they see, right, versus what they hear. And I thought, man, I've got to be better for my family, and I've got to make my family better. And that's really what led to this passion, this purpose to start down this path. And
did your kids at the time you were really going down this path, did they have their own phones, their own laptops? And, were there battles each day? Like, that's what I find families are always like, oh my God, these screens are, how was your household during that time before when you were getting to the discovery part of your journey?
Yeah, it's such a great question. My friend at Screen Sanity, Tracy Foster, always says that, screen time is the number one battleground in most families. And I agree. Now, at that time, it wasn't phones. They didn't have devices, but they did have, laptops or iPads for school. The boys in particular, consoles, whether it was a, Nintendo or Xbox or something like that, that's where they could get lost for several hours. But, the thing about a phone, and then again, this was like seeing into the future, is, this is your constant companion. For most of us, unfortunately, and the data supports this, it says that 91% of us keep our phones on us 24/7. Right. So it's either in our pocket. It's crazy. Either in our pocket, on our person, or beside our bed. And I can attest to that. So I thought, look, if my kids are going to be successful with these devices, I've got to help them understand the power of them and also give them the ability to put them down every once in a while.
Okay. Well, I can understand that journey. I was on it myself.
So RO really is that. RO was meant to be we call it a hyper-practical solution that makes it easy for families to put their phones down and kind of re-engage or engage in real life. And you said it at the outset, it consists of an app. So we are pro technology, we're pro phone. Again, this is a technology company. We don't hearken for the days of the past where the phone's sitting on the wall and we're playing board games every night, although that's amazing. We're more realistic that modern times have emerged and we have to learn to live with these wonderful, captivating devices. So we've taken an app, we've layered in everything we know about motivational system design to make it fun, make it rewarding, and make it, even nudge and encourage people to use the product along the way. And that's one aspect of the product. The other is a place. And this is really the power behind it. If you think about habit formation, everything starts with a visual cue. So if anyone has an exercise bike, if you put it down in the dungeon in your basement, if you have a basement, you're probably not going to ride it. But if you walk past it every day, whether it's guilt or encouragement, you're more likely to hop on. And that was our theory here. And again, we've read a bunch of books on this and studied, but we knew there needed to be something that lived in a home, in a high traffic area, that became that cue to say, oh, I don't really need this thing right now, or we've defined family dinner as sacred, or my morning is sacred, and this is where my device goes when I'm not using it. And then those two, of course, work in tandem together. So when you put your phone into the RO home device, it tracks.
We haven't really described to my listeners what the device is.
Yeah,
you want to tell them?
It's a tech packed. We'll call it a smart box, but it's a beautiful aesthetic. It's wife approved or husband approved. It fits in your home decor. And this is a funny look. All of us have shoe boxes, right, or drawers. We could put our phones away if we wanted to, but they're not calling to us, right? So we want to create something that said, "Hey, Heath. Hey, Mary. I'm waiting for you to put your phone in." So that's kind of the idea behind it: is to make this beautiful device that, in a way, stands out but also fades away in your home environment. But it's tech packed. When you put your phone in, it automatically recognizes your phone to say, hey, that's Heath's phone. Let's start tracking all of his off-screen time. And really, that's what we're measuring is your intentional time away from your phone. Apple can tell you how much time you're on your phone. We want you to understand and engage and motivate you based on the time you're spending away from it.
Yeah, I love it. You really flip the whole measure. Because we're always
exactly.
Well, I get the little message each week or whatever, how much percent screen time I've gone more or less than the last week. But it's like, well, okay, I do feel a little better when it says it's less, but I'm not really tracking it any other way. It's not that fun to hear it. It's like, and it's just a little nudge once a week.
It is. And, there's so many loopholes to it. If you're up, on a 4-hour trip and you need to use, Waze or Google Maps, all this in your screen time's way up. So there's some things that'll make it optimal. With ours, it's intentional, right? So you're intentionally putting it down. So for me, I can look back on my app and say, hey, over the past 3 weeks, I've had 13 hours of family dinners. I've done my, journal and devotional every morning. I've had my phone sleeping in this device at night. So I track every intentional act that I'm engaging in. And to me, that's rewarding to be able to look back and say, wow, look at all these things that I said I was going to do, and I'm actually doing them. And when I do forget, I get a little encouragement from RO to say, hey, we miss you. Come back. Let's try it again.
Oh, okay. You get a text?
It's a notification within the app.
Okay, notification within the app. And then how do you, as you put it in, let's say it's dinner time and 4 people put their phones in the box, because it literally is a box, a tech box, like you said. How do they know? How does the box know or the app know that it's dinner time? Like, you're pre-program that in, like, the normal times for dinner?
We're not to that level of specificity yet. So actually, when you take your phone out, so when you've engaged in an RO session, let's call it, and you remove your phone, it's going to ask you, what did you do?
Oh, okay.
So you can one tap start to say, like, this was dinner, this was family time, this was even watching TV without a second screen. So it kind of becomes your own personal journal based on what's important to you.
Okay. And then each person can look at their records of their own time, and then how does it impact the family? I get the impression, I haven't used the app myself yet, but that you as dad can look at everybody's, or can everybody look at everybody's? And there's something about contests and stuff like that you were talking about.
We can make it competitive, or the family can make it competitive if they like. I think as the kids get older, that becomes something that's interesting. We've had parents who tie an allowance to, the amount of time their kids spend in RO. So there's different ways to motivate them that way. I would say overall, though, this isn't meant to be a parental control device. In fact, I would argue it's a great equalizer in the family. We find, especially with young kids, let's call it 2 to 10, it's almost become the reverse. It's become a reverse parental control device where they will take, their parents' phones and say, hey, I'm putting your phone away so that you can look at me, right? Because they don't know any better. They don't know that this thing, they just see a phone for what it is, and that is the distraction, to playtime, or the distraction to your attention. So it's been kind of fun to see just the different use cases depending on, again, that age range of the kids.
Yeah. And when we were talking the other day in prep for this, we were talking about that age range, what's an appropriate age range. And at the beginning of the podcast, I said this is kind of more like preschool through peaking into middle school. When I was describing to some of my friends in the teen parenting community at my church, they're going like, oh, that'd never work for my, because teen behavior is so ingrained and there's so many battles going on that there's this influential time that parents have. And when you and I talked about it, you're like, yeah, we've noticed that. And you had a bit of a surprise as users are starting to use that. Explain what it is that you guys have been finding.
Yeah, we did. I mean, initially we thought the perfect target market would be families with kids in that 11 to 14-year-old range. So right before or, right at the outset of them getting their own device, actually it's been way downstream. It's been parents with young kids who want to start that process early of instilling the right habits in their family, primarily from a role modeling perspective, so that by the time, Johnny or Susie gets a phone, they're like, oh, this is how we use these things. I think back to, my kids, I've got 2 drivers now, right? So who do they take their cues from? Mom and dad. And unfortunately, I look back at some of the ways that I used to model to them, even, taking shortcuts or running through a yellow light or those types of things. Like, wow, okay. So I've basically taught them, like, this is the way you drive, right? So the next time I get on to them about, hey, you shouldn't drive too fast, or, you really need to stop on yellow, they're like, well, wait a minute, Dad, you do that. But I will tell you, we have 3 teenagers in high school right now. What has been really interesting is that kids still crave connection. So even my high schoolers, when they have friends over, they'll sneak upstairs and say, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, can you just come down maybe at 11 p.m. and ask everyone to put their phones away? Because they know the conversations, the things they do when the phones are away are so much different. Now, they won't be overt about it. They won't be the ones telling their friends to put their phones down. But this device has become a little bit of a kind of a beautiful scapegoat for them to have the ability to connect on a different level. They also use it for homework. So if they're trying to lock in for, study or a group project, they'll all put their phones away. So I'd say there actually are some use cases, even for those kids or teenagers, let's call it, that have had 2 or 3 years of kind of unfettered access. It is more difficult to change behavior than it is to instill behavior. But even there, I've seen some great wins already.
Yeah. And I think that all that being said, I think it's your connection with your kids, no matter what their age is will they trust you to, like, okay, you're 16 and I know that you can drive and all that kind of stuff. But we as a family want to figure out how to make a more positive relationship with these electronic devices in our house so that we have family time, so that we have time to play board games or whatever. I love that. And when my younger son was still in high school and I was testing out something for the parenting work that I do. And I said, hey, Joe, would you put this on your phone for a week? And he's like, sure, Mom, I'll do it for a week. He didn't want to do it forever, but he was like, we had a trusting enough relationship that he knew I wasn't going to abuse it and that it was, a positive thing to experiment together. And I find that if parents are able to have that loving, trusting relationship, that you could even get a 16-year-old to do it. Your 16-year-olds are doing it, yes?
Yeah,
pretty much. And
yeah, and we do have some rules layered on top of that as well. So they are doing it, on their own accord. At the same time, we do say, hey, the Wilson family does not sleep with our phones in our bedroom, right? And we're going to lead by example. Like, we're going to put our phones in there as well. If, there's an extenuating circumstance, if there's a parent that's ill, or if our kids are out late, like, then we may keep our phones closer. But on the standard routine nights, all of us put our phones downstairs. And I can tell you, as a dad, knowing that my teenagers don't have their phone in their room and are not, wasting 4 and 5 hours on something, I sleep much better.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's just that one part of the day, maybe dinner time and overnight time, what a
100%.
what a blessing. Because some kids are up till 2, 3 in the morning scrolling through TikToks and YouTubes. And I mean, it's all addicting. It's meant to be addicting. Tell us a little bit about your co-founder, Joel, and what his relationship to his kids are and how it's going for his family.
Yeah, so Joey is.
Sorry,
you can't. No, you can't see him, but he's 6'5" and I'm 5'10". He has long hair and I'm bald, so we're kind of a funny mix to look at. We met actually at a men's church group one morning at breakfast 7 or 8 years ago. He was in the real estate business. I was still leading a tech company, but we just connected on a personal level. He has a couple kids. His son is 14, his daughter's 12, so they're in that middle school range. And he just felt the same way I did. He felt a lot of tension around his own personal failures, and I think we both just saw an opportunity to bend culture a little bit. And again, we started. The evolution of this business was very simple beta tests. Like, we literally took a shoebox early on and punched a hole in it and said, "Hey, will we start using this thing?" And it evolved well beyond that. But as we started to get a little more confidence in, the solution, the feedback we got from clients or from people testing it, he just said, "Look, this is something we've got to give it a go." And actually, we were both living in Atlanta at the time. I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee. He ended up moving his whole family to pursue this as well about 6 months ago. So we are all in, as they say, in terms of getting this thing launched and trying to make a dent in the universe.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about how it works in terms of, like, there's you pay an upfront, monthly, how that works.
Well, we fully expect this to be a longer term relationship. You don't just solve this, right? Habits, like if you're good at exercising or eating well, this is something that's a lifelong journey, and there's ebbs and flows. So we knew this couldn't be a one-time purchase because we'd have no connection to our customers afterwards. We set it up to be more of a subscription platform, a membership platform, where the fee is a monthly fee with an annual commitment. And I like that. This is my history. I had a business that was also built that way in the past, but I like it because it aligns our interests as business owners to continue to innovate. I mean, what the app looks like today and what it does today will be different in 6 months and different in 12 months and 6 years. So it will continue to gather that customer feedback and be able to make it even better and the experience even better for our customers. So we built it that way just to align the interest of the business and our customers. So it's easy to get started. It's as low as $12 a month if you want to sign up for a longer term, $18 a month if you want to pay on a monthly basis for that first year. Much like you would get with a meditation app or your streaming services, we try to put it in line with those. You get the home device for free with that subscription. And now we're looking into the future to say, all right, how else can we build this into people's lifestyle? Because this really isn't a product company. It's more of a lifestyle company. It's a lifestyle around intentionality and aligning those actions with intentionality.
Yeah.
Some of the early feedback we've heard is, this works so great at home. I need a solution once I step out the front door.
Bring it to the office.
Could be the office,
Maybe.
could be date night, could be out at the soccer field, could be at the airport, but just something tangible that allows you to get into this focused state or undistracted state.
So you guys are still researching maybe different ways to expand that.
We're testing stuff internally as well. But what's really interesting, Mary, is and this is a little bit of an unexpected learning. People really enjoy getting credit. So it's one thing for me to put my phone down for a couple hours, right? I might feel good about it for a second, but when I get to see it and get credit for it, and everyone else in my family knows that I've done it, there's something to that. And we would say, hey, how do you feel after you have an RO session? And everyone said the same thing. They said, I'm so proud of myself. Now, I always say that's a little bit ridiculous.
That you get a pat on the back for having left it in the box, as opposed to, oh, yeah, I was at the store and I didn't pull out my phone while I was bored in line or something. You know,
exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Oh, yeah, no, I like it. Well, our technology in our pocket is so addicting, and it's so like whenever we're bored as adults, it's not just our kids. Like, oh, I think I'll look at the weather. I think I'll look at what the news feed is. You know, like I'm kind of a news hound, so I'm always pulling out and I'm like, ever since talking to you a week ago, I'm like, I'm going to try just personally, without a device, you know, without your assistant, just to be a little more intentional about it. And it's like, and my little number from, you know, I have an Apple device. So it said, your use went down last week. I'm like, oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Like, but just to show that, like, if I'm more conscious of it, I can say like, did I have to look at the weather again? I already looked at it, you know, twice today or something, whatever it was. But training ourselves and modeling for ourselves to get some credit for the fact that we're trying. Sort of like, you know, people go on diets and they want to see that weight come off. It's like, I want to see that my family's changing for the better.
It's so true. And, you know, phone usage is a little bit like a yawn effect, right? It's why when you're bored, you're looking at your phone or at the airport, you see everyone else doing it. So it's almost natural, second nature to do that. So, you know, we were out to lunch the other day as a team and we all put our phones in a pouch just so we could, you know, and we laughed because we said, who would have thought that in 2023, we would look like the oddballs in the restaurant? Because everyone else was on their phone looking at us like, what are you guys doing? What in the world are you doing? Yeah.
So now you have to come up with an electronic pouch to take to dinner out at a restaurant with your family.
That's right.
Like all
we'll
sorts
make it
of
really
options
bright so everyone sees it.
available.
That's right. So true.
All right. Any other things we didn't cover that you think would be really helpful for people to know?
Well, I would just say if you have kids, I mean, we say this often. If you have kids and you think those kids will have a device one day, which they probably will, whether it's RO or not, I would encourage you to put in place the right practices as the leaders of the family. RO makes it a whole lot easier, certainly, but they are looking to you. And by the time they get that device, you know, their interaction is going to be based on how you've been modeling it for a number of years. So start early, because who knows, you know, 10 years from now, who knows what the devices look like. I hope it's not something we're wearing or implanted, but you know, we can set that example today.
Yeah. And I totally think that starting early is always my mantra of like, it doesn't get easier. And anything that you can do to help form positive habits, especially I like your idea of having it be a little bit gamified where you can have a contest in your family to see who's, you know, spending the most time off their phones instead of, you know, yelling at them for being on their phones. So thanks for joining me, Heath. It's been so insightful. I am going to put your contact information for GoAro.com on my podcast link. And I also wanted to mention, for those of you who are looking for more information about screens, take a listen to some other podcasts that I have. 11 and 12 are on screen time battles and what to do about them, how to set up some personal habits in your own homes and what's happening with social media and stuff. And then podcast 44, it's my interview with Emily Churkin, who's her nickname is the Screen Time Consultant. She offers a class on how to deal with screen time addictions in your family if things are out of control. So using a lot of the different resources out there, you can really improve your family situation. And I'll put links to those podcasts and to Go RO onto the show notes. Thanks so much, Heath, for being with me. Everybody, that's all for now. Have a blessed rest of your day.